Hello, tiny friends. Welcome back. If you're new here, I'm Jolene. Welcome to Tiny Keyhole Minis. Today I'll be using these wood coffee stir sticks, and I'm going to be working on the Josephine house. The next area in the house is going to be the upstairs hallway. And before I actually get to working in there, I need to create a new wall. So I'm going to work on the two-story wall that goes along the stairs from the living room up to the second story. I'm going to also show you a way that you can organically stain or color your wood uh, using a household product that you may have on hand. It'll save you a little bit of money. It's not an ideal way to get a nice dark stain, but it is a naturally safe and non-toxic way that you can color your wood. And just another technique that you can use to age your wood. I'll be doing a two-step process. So I'll be doing the organic way, and then I'm going to go to step number 2 to get to where I want my wood to look. Right now, I'm just cutting the ends off the sticks. I have this full bag. It's a brand new full bag, and I also have a half a bag that I'll be doing. And I'll be doing this process in 2 batches. It's also another way that you can color your wood in a large quantity. Okay, I've got my sticks in a metal bowl, and I've got tea bags in there, and I'm using hot water that I boiled in a kettle. The hot water is very important. You don't have to use a metal bowl. I am to keep the water hotter longer, and you can use double the tea. And I believe you can also use coffee as well. I have stained paper in the past with tea, and I thought, well, I'm going to give it a try with wood and see if it works. The sticks were previously wet, so they were a little darker already, and that's because I was trying a different method earlier and decided to go with the tea. So I'm just going to get them all nice and wet, push them down, get this tea started. Now you can use double the amount of tea that I'm using if you want your pieces to look darker than what mine are going to look. But it's not necessary for me because I'm going to have my pieces look, so old. So I'm going to go with a second round of something else after this. So this will be a 2-step process so I can get the look that I'm going for. But this is a very safe and non-toxic way to stain and color your wood. And most of us have tea or coffee in our pantries, so it's a great way to save money. And I believe that even if you didn't have these 2 products in your pantry, they might be cheaper than buying stain or some sort of medium that you would need to stain or color your wood. So I'm just going to give it a try. Now, the more tea or coffee you use and the longer you leave them sitting in the water will determine how dark your pieces will be. So remember that. And also the hot water is very key to this. Now, these are what they look like. This is just half the batch. I've got the other half sitting in part 2 of this process. So if you have the time to do this, you can definitely do this. You can just work on some other projects while you're preparing your wood. I've taken the bigger sticks and cut them in half to make smaller sizes. And again, they're not all even, and that's just going to be a bonus detail to my old wall. So all I've done was take my scissors and just cut them down the center as best as I could to create smaller sizes. The tea or coffee will stain your fingers also, so if you mind, you may want to wear some gloves while doing this. This solution is actually just paint water, and I have also used warm water for this as well, and I'm using my pewter gray and a little bit of the black. It's mostly pewter gray. My black, this bottle is actually empty, so I just added a little bit of water in there and shook it all around. And I'm just using it just to darken the gray. So I'm gradually adding the black, but you can do whatever color you would like for this process. If you want a more brown or golden, I would go with a brown, or if you want like a golden, I would go with like maybe a bright yellow and an orange mixed together, or maybe if you want it more brown, just do a brown. I'm just completely experimenting here, and that's what the fun part about this is. So if you want to do a 3-step process, it's totally up to you on how you want your wood. I'm going for that salvage barn look. I want my boards to look withered. So this is the process that I'm going for. With the paint water, I'm only leaving them to soak for a few hours. With the tea or the coffee, I left them to soak overnight. You can probably leave them soaking for a couple days, depending on, how much time you have and what you're doing. But the longer they're soaking, the darker they're going to get. The more product you're using, the darker they're going to get. So just remember that. Okay, I got the second half soaking in the paint water, and the first half is on the drying rack. I got it sitting in front of a small fan, and for some reason the second batch looks darker than the first batch, but I guess I'll find out when they're drying. They will dry lighter, but if you can see the different tones in the wood, some of this is drying lighter in areas, which I really love, and then some of them are drying darker in areas. And if that second batch dries darker, that'll be fine, because it's just going to add some depth and dimension when I lay these pieces down into place. And you can do your floor the same way. So if you want to do an all natural wood floor, you can go with this route as well. And if you can see some of that black, that is because as I gradually added that black in there, I only swirled it around lightly, and then it just started to settle. The paint started to settle onto the sticks the longer they laid in the water. So when I pulled those out, they just came out that way, and I decided not to wipe them off, just to let them dry that way. So in a little bit, I'll lay these out a little more so that they can dry a little better, and put the second batch on the drying rack. But they're really beginning to look pretty old and worn down, and that is what I'm going for. So I think this might actually work. When these are completely dry, I'll be back to show you what I came up with as far as the design of the wall. Okay, so going in to prep the wall while all of those sticks are drying, I'm using painter's tape, and I'm just taping up the wood that's already there that I don't want to get paint on. So I'm not a professional painter, so you probably wouldn't be able to call me if you needed your house painted. So I'm going to go ahead and cover up all of these parts that I don't want to get paint on. And I also removed that railing that was there in the upstairs hallway, just so I could easily get in there. But the railing is so old that the glue wasn't sticking in certain places anymore anyways. I may just take the whole stair railing and all the parts down so that I can re-glue them into place to hold a little better. This is what it looks like. I'm also going to do that back wall as well, so I've got one more piece to put on there so that I don't get paint on that. I ran out of black paint, so I'm going to use my Waverly Chalk Black, which is called Ink. And here is the railing that I've taken down, and you can see where the parts are not connected any longer. I was thinking about aging that up. I may possibly do that if I'm removing all the parts anyways. Why not, right? So I'm not sure how much in depth I'm gonna age that, but I may give it some sort of aging so that I don't have like this old wall next to this nicely stained wood, although the doors are like that as well. So we'll see. Right now I am painting the whole wall black, and this is because if I have any gaps between my wood slabs, that wallpaper won't be, sticking out and showing. You won't see any white. You'll see black, and it'll just look like, a dark space in there. I'm not really worried about the trimming as well. This part of the house has white trimming that goes around the rooms. I'm actually going to be painting that black as well. I want to redo that and add a different trimming around that. And in that case, I won't have any white showing through. I'd rather have black showing through than white. So this way it just looks like a space between the pieces. But what I intend to do is frame out each room individually as I'm coming to a finish with those rooms. Um, I want to use decorative pieces in the corners to frame out the rooms. So that's what I plan on doing as I'm going along. So right now I'm just painting this wall black. I'm going to do the upstairs as well. Sorry about my head in the way. I was trying to stay out of the way. I won't be doing the cubby wall space underneath the stairs, and that is because I just can't even get in there. There would be no way I could get in there to paint and actually lay the pieces in place the way I want to. So I'm going to leave that as is, and I don't think it's going to be too much of an eyesore, if any at all. And I'm just going to focus on this part going up into the hallway. The good thing about using chalk paint is that it's so thick, it's like a primer too. You only need like one coat. But it does dry like a matte finish, and it does dry with a chalky texture to it. But it does dry pretty quickly. In this case, it's perfectly fine because I'm going to be covering up this wall anyways. So it's not going to make a difference. But if you're using it to paint an object and you want to leave that paint showing as the layer of color it is, you might want to coat it with a protective spray or some sort of varnish. Just to keep that chalk paint from scratching up, because it will easily do that. So now that this is all done, I can move on to the installation. Okay, I'm just going to use a piece of card to put some tacky glue on, and this way it sits out a little bit and tacks up so my boards don't slide down the wall. They stay pretty much in place. So I'm going to start with this tiny panel first, and I'm going to stop at the top of the door, and then I'll go on to the other side. So right now I'm just laying my stick down along the baseboard, marking it off. I'm just using scissors to cut these pieces. They're very easy to cut with scissors. And then I'm going to add the glue and lay it down into place. Now I did play around a little bit with the pieces to try and come up with a design that I liked. And what I came up with was laying the bigger pieces down and then laying the smaller strips over the connecting points to give it a little more of a design. Instead of butting the bigger pieces together, I'm going to actually space them out just a tiny bit. So you'll see a tiny bit of space in between the boards. That is because I thought I would be able to save on the wood if I did that. Only because I'm short on time and I have the other bags soaking. So I thought if I just space them out a little bit, maybe I can save some of the wood, because I really don't think I'm gonna have enough to do everything right now anyways. But if I wasn't in a crunch, if I had all of the wood already done and ready to go, I would probably just butt them up together and then just place the boards over the seams where they connect. So this is what it's beginning to look like. And now I'm going over with the smaller pieces, and I'm just doing this whole side so it can give you some sort of idea of what it's going to look like. So right now I'm just taking the little strips and I'm just gluing them. So this is what it kind of looks like if you can imagine the rest of the wall looking that way. It doesn't really give you a good idea, does it? But you'll see in a little bit where I'm going. Just trust the process, tiny friends. Hey, I know I am. So now I'm going to begin on the other side of the wall. Okay, it was a little difficult to get that tiny little triangle in there, but I managed to get it in there. I think that I'm going to just remove the whole banister eventually and get it out of my way. So it's a little easier to work with this wall, but I'm just going to go up and continue on till I get up to the top of the door, and then I'll be able to lay them straight as I go across. But all I'm doing is laying the bigger board down, marking where I need to cut that angle that goes up along the wall. I'm not trying to be very precise. I'm doing the best I can since I can't really get in there. I'll cut it. I'm going to go ahead and lay it as best as I can, as straight as I can, and just mark off where I need to cut around the door frame. Once I get that cut, I'm going to dry fit it before gluing, just to make sure that it's going to be good to go. Once I get it in there, I'll be able to glue it into place. And I'm just going to move up the wall in the same way. Okay, now I'm coming to the section where it's a little bit longer, so I'm going to have to use more than one piece for the strip that goes across. So I'm going to try and stagger them so that the seam isn't exactly the same going up the wall. But you can see the very top piece has two pieces to it. There's a little seam in the middle, and I'm going to keep moving. It's a little bit tedious, but I think that it's definitely going to be worth it in the end. You can see the banister is still there, and in my way, I haven't removed it yet, but I do eventually get that out of the way. Okay, here I'm cutting the next piece a little bit shorter than the last piece, and this is so the seams don't quite line up in the same area as it's going up the wall. And you'll see in a minute what I'm talking about by staggering the seams. So you can see that it's a little bit shorter than the piece underneath it. And once I get that second piece on, my seams will not line up. They'll just be staggered going up the wall. Which just gives it a little more interest, like a real wall. The seams on boards that are planked together, they don't always line up. I've never seen one that actually all the seams line up perfectly even with each other. So that's the effect that I'm doing as I'm piecing these boards together. So far, this part of the wall, the bottom half, is a bit easier to work with. The space is a lot larger. I can get in there a little more, and I'm only doing a smaller section of this wall, so it's easier for me to see what I'm doing. Okay, I've begun laying down the smaller boards, and oh, I took the railing down, the banister, got rid of that. Um, Laying these smaller boards down were actually easier than the larger boards. Here I'm laying it up against the wall so that I can measure where it needs to be cut. I stopped doing that. I just started cutting the ends at an angle without actually marking it like I did the bigger pieces. So I didn't have to be so precise. So it moved a little bit quicker. Just eyeballed the cut at the angle and just started laying them down into place. Okay, I got the bottom half finished, and I'm bringing it out a little bit so you can see what it looks like with the rest of the living room. I really love this. I'm excited about it. Getting up close a little bit, you can see the different colors and tones. Eventually, I'm going to get in there and clean up any of the boards that are hanging over the door frame. And I'll also, when I get to adding the new trimming around the frame of the house, I'll sand those down as well so they're nice and even. But can you believe it, tiny friends? I didn't even have to paint any of this. None of it was painted. It was all just created from the wash. That's super exciting. So I'm going to fast forward to upstairs. Hopefully I can finish it. We'll see how much I can get done. Okay, tiny friends. I cleaned up a bit. I also fixed Miss Margot's basin. So she has her basin back. There was some sort of yellow discoloring going on from a chemical reaction. I just painted over those parts white and then added more bubble beads. So that was an easy fix. You can see how happy she is to have her basin back. Poor Miss Margot, she had wood chips all over her. They were stuck in her rollers, all over her lap, and I did tell her I would be more than happy to accommodate her with a beautiful bed and breakfast, but she insisted on napping in her favorite chair, and she told me that she would be perfectly happy there. So that's where she sat as I did the renovations on the wall. I did add the push button plate back on the wall, and you know what, tiny friends, I also moved that other one over to where it actually should be. I just couldn't take it on the other side anymore. I was like, that's it, it's moving. So I moved that to a place that makes more sense. Miss Margot is really happy about her new wall, and now she wants me to do other things around her house. So she's asking me to do several other things. This is the wall. I think it kind of looks a little modern, but that's probably because this style is sort of in these days. I'm hoping that it's going to look a little older when I add all the portraits on the wall. So here is the top wall, the upstairs wall, and I did run out of time and I did run out of sticks. So I did have more sticks soaking, but I won't be able to finish this wall until after the holiday. I'll be leaving for a week, and I'll be back after the holiday, tiny friends. I know I just got back, and right now I'm in the middle of a couple different projects, so it's kind of hard for me to leave, but this was not planned. It was completely unexpected and last minute, and unfortunately I do have to leave again. The holidays tend to be very busy for me, so now I have to go and pack. But going back to the wall, as I got towards the top, it does become a little more piecey, and that's because I was trying to use every bit and all the little cuts that I had to get as much of this wall done. It was also harder for me to get all the way in the back there. So there are a few more gaps, but I think that will be definitely okay. That's why I painted the wall black, because I knew there would be some gaps, and it's really hard to see in this narrow hallway. The back of the wall, the baseboard frame, let me see if I can get up there. This part right here, this area of the house, the floor kind of slopes down a little, so there is a gap back here, and it started becoming uneven, so I had to make do the best I could back there. But for the most part, this is what it looks like. Now, I'm actually working on a few different projects at the same time that I'm working on the house. So I'll be going back and forth. When I come back to the hallway, I'll be working on the faux pole down ladder that will be up on the ceiling, and then the component to that, the ladder part, will be up in the attic. I'm going to leave the railing off for now until I get that done, so I can get in there a little bit better, and it'll be a little easier to get in there. Okay, right here where the paper is torn, I got black paint on the wall from painting the trim, so I decided to show you guys how I create pieces of the wall that look like they're falling apart, and you'll see that the bare wall behind it, the wall supports, kind of like what I did in the sewing room. This right here. I'll show you guys how easy it was to create that illusion. I also did a little bit right there around the mirror. But since I got black paint on this part here, I decided to do a little bit up here in the hallway. And especially because I'm going to be doing the hopefully doing the leaky ceiling, if that works out. So all I've done was wet the paper a little bit, enough so that I can peel it back. And then when I come back, I'll show you how easy it was to create that illusion. I was really surprised to get this effect without having to actually paint any of that. And I'm not even going to be using my chalk pastels. I don't even know how the lighter color happened. When I was rinsing out the tray, that light color, which was kind of like a cream color, was sitting and settled all on the bottom of the tray. So the only thing I can think of was that maybe the colors that they used to make that pewter gray color separated in the water. But I thought that was a lovely addition as far as color. And the black, I just kind of poured that black in there and just lightly swirled it. I didn't overmix it, and as they were sitting, the paints and the colors started to settle onto the wood, and that's how I got this stonewashed look. So you can add whatever colors you like. I guess the key is not to really mix that paint water. Just put your colors in, give it a light swirl, and let them settle. And they'll begin to separate and settle on the wood. So that was a really cool trick. I hope you were inspired to try it. When I do come back to finish that small section of the wall, by that time the glue would be pretty cured and safe enough to go around the door frames and the frame of the house and clip down any excess pieces that are hanging over the door frames. I'll also sand down the edges so that they're nice and smooth and even. Some of our tiny friends are doing a lovely Christmas tree collaboration, so make sure to check out those Christmas trees. I was not able to join in on that collaboration this time, but I promise, tiny friends, I will do a Christmas project with you all. When I come back, that will be my next video. I'll show you how I did some cute Christmas accessories in the past, and they were pretty easy DIYs that you can do yourself. I hope you enjoyed this video today, tiny friends. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. Don't forget to click that like button and give it a thumbs up. Thank you to all my subscribers. Welcome to all my new subscribers. Don't forget to hit that top bell notification button to be notified every time I upload a new project, so you don't miss out. I've got a new project coming when I come back from holiday. If you all celebrate Thanksgiving, happy Thanksgiving. I hope you have a lovely holiday. And if not, well, tiny friends, until the next time, I hope you all have a lovely day. And I will see you all on the mini side. Bye-bye.